The rut, a deer hunter's magical time. In addition to watching this video, where I'm showing you what we as hunters hope for during the rut, please also read my article, When is Your Rut? If the hunting season encompasses the rut, then many hunters will try to coordinate their time in the woods to be during the rut so that the odds of them seeing a buck, or possibly even a particular buck, are at their greatest. Many hunters actually coordinate their vacation time so it is during this magical time. This is the time when a hunter may have his or her best opportunity to shoot that elusive buck. As I discuss a few things, I am just showing you a small percentage of the video that we have taken over the last 4 years. What you are watching is what one of our management goals is. That goal is to grow some older and bigger antlered bucks, but most importantly create a situation where the bucks do move around some during daytime hours. The rutting activity that we are looking for is having bucks that are 2.5 years old and older moving around, making mistakes during daylight hours. I did not reference 1.5-year-old bucks because they are young and dumb and oftentimes move during daylight hours for much of the season. Because of that, we know that once we have our 2.5-year-old and older bucks moving around, then we have accomplished one of our goals. Please remember that these are Georgia deer in this video. Georgia has some good antlered bucks, but not as many as some states have. So my intentions aren't to compare antlers. It's to show how we as hunters would like to have most of our bucks moving around some during daylight hours. The important thing to remember is that a 4.5-year-old buck is a 4.5-year-old buck, regardless of what geographical area he is in or how big his antlers are. If you have read my article, It's All About the Antlers, then you will know what I mean by that remark. So what is the rut? If you look up the definition of rut, or ask a wildlife biologist what the rut is, you will find that it's a bit more complicated than most hunters think. You may hear that different stages of the rut occur from when the velvet is shed from the antlers all the way until the antlers are cast or the last doe is bred. When most hunters refer to the rut, they are talking about the time when bucks are running or walking around during daylight hours in search of a receptive doe. So when I ask another hunter how their rut was, or they ask me how our rut was, we are basically asking if we saw many bucks that were 2.5 years old and older walking or running around during daylight hours. Rubs, scrapes, chasing, and fighting are all rutting activity. Even though finding rubs and scrapes is exciting, and they can certainly help you formulate a hunting strategy, if that particular buck is not moving around during daylight hours, then even with the best hunting strategy, you won't see him if he's not moving. So you probably see where I'm heading with this. The more the bucks move around during daylight, then the better chance you have of seeing him and possibly shooting him. I often hear hunters say that they get quite a few night pictures of some good bucks, but they never see them during hunting season. These bucks, especially older bucks, are slick. When we encountered this exact situation the first few years we had hunted our property, we asked ourselves if there was anything we could do to influence more daylight movement of the bucks. Our answer was a resounding yes, because we knew if we could tighten our doe-to-buck ratio, minimize our hunting pressure, and create desirable habitat for the deer, then we had a good chance for improving our buck sightings. And improve it did. Now let's check out some specific situations. Many of you will recognize the posture of this young buck. The ears laid back, his hair standing up, and that stare into space. As soon as you see his posture, you know that there's another buck nearby. He doesn't even need to make eye contact with the other buck. The other buck seems to respect this show of dominance and moves away. Please check out my article, Which Bucks Are Dominant and Why You Should Care. Did you hear the grunt? Just prior to the rut and during the rut, the bucks can do some serious vocalizing, from a grunt, tending grunt, snort wheeze, etc. I actually grunted this buck in while there was a doe underneath me. Even though you can't see the doe, she is only about 20 feet upwind of him. We nicknamed this buck Tex. This particular buck is scent checking this doe. As he comes down the field, though, he is actually downwind of some other does and will be able to determine if there are any does of interest. This could be a doe that is in heat or maybe coming into heat soon. These bucks have the uncanny ability to recognize a doe of interest. I can't tell you how many times I have sat afield only to see a buck slip up just off the edge of the field on the downwind side to scent check the does that are out in the field. Even though this is a yearling buck, it was funny watching him run a trail, panting and sweating. He decided to take a break in a water hole right in front of me. It reminded me of myself as a kid. After mowing the yard in 100-degree temperature, I would jump into our neighbor's swimming pool. I always find it amazing to watch a deer drink. It's certainly not like watching a dog drink. Of course, after this buck cools down and has gotten a drink, he gets right back on the trail of the doe he is searching for. Here you have a doe with two 2.5-year-old bucks on a food plot with her. How many of you are reading the body language that they are displaying? Look how they both looked off into the woods on the far side. They are telling me that there is another deer in the woods, and it's probably a buck. I was unable to video this older buck because he is doing what older bucks do best: limit their mistakes. I was able to see him with my binoculars, but I couldn't get any video. These two bucks stayed in the field for a while, but never got too close to the doe. I assure you that if one or both of them had gotten real close to the doe, this older buck would have probably charged out into the field. As it turned out, I think both of these bucks knew to keep their distance from this doe. For those of you who have read my article, Which Bucks Are Dominant and Why You Should Care, this is the 3.5-year-old buck that moved into the area that was previously dominated by a 4.5-year-old buck that I shot. He stays close to his doe and dissuades any other bucks from getting too close to his doe or himself. I actually saw and videoed this buck multiple times in the same area. I've had a few times over the years where I had shot a doe and a buck comes across her later. Some hunters may think that after you have fired your gun, there probably won't be another deer coming by, but that isn't necessarily the case. Just this past season, I shot two does on 2 different days from the same stand, and amazingly both times I had a buck come by and scent check the dead doe. It's funny to watch him paw at her. This buck is a yearling. The other buck I had seen the other day was 2.5 years old. This is just another example of a buck standing by his doe. This buck is 4 years old or older. What's sad about this situation is that this buck is illegal to shoot. He is illegal because of a county-mandated antler restriction. Please read my article, Antler Restrictions Gone Bad. I would consider this buck a trophy age buck, and for many hunters it may be the oldest buck they ever shoot. We're happy to shoot a buck that is 4.5 years old or older, but more importantly in this situation, this buck has poor antlers for our area, and we want to be able to remove him from the deer herd. Here's the buck we called Tex, another year older and another year bigger. He's checking out the does on this food plot. He was definitely the dominant buck in this particular area. Any other bucks that came by this food plot simply moved on to another area. We decided to let him walk so he would get another year of growth. Wide antler characteristics are rare in our area, so we were thrilled to have a buck like this. I saw this particular 4.5-year-old buck 5 times throughout hunting season. He actually responded to a grunt call that I had made. I had gotten a glimpse of him walking by in the distance and was fortunate that he came into the grunt that I had made. He is trying to find the buck that made the grunt. Even though this would have been my biggest antlered buck ever, we had decided to let him walk so he could get another year of growth. I'll be honest with you, I enjoy showing this video as much as if I had shot him. In conclusion, if you aren't experiencing a lot of rutting activity, then ask yourself and your entire hunt group, is there anything your group can do to improve your daytime rutting activity? I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. If you have not done so already, please go to our website and watch the video called "The Buck We Nicknamed Piebald." We actually got video of him for all 5 seasons of his life.